Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 18th April 2016. The first article is related to the smokeless tobacco. The tobacco is consumed as a cigarette and also as a pan masala, which is said to be the smokeless tobacco. The chewing part, it is the smokeless tobacco. In this context, what it has been said is, most of the women, more than 50%, they consume arecanut along with this tobacco. The WHO has clearly declared tobacco as the number one carcinogen, that is, which causes the cancer, and arecanut as the number two carcinogen. In this case, if incidence of the cancer has to be decreased in the country, the consumption of tobacco, either in the form of smoke, that is cigarette, or in the form of the chewing pan masalas, have to be avoided. So in India, again, let's take another demographic factor. Most of the people who smoke are men. But coming to the arecanut and smokeless tobacco consumption, women also form the 50%. So in this case, the carcinogen risk to the that is especially towards the oral cancer is increasing. So what are the safeguards India has? There is a law called as Food Safety and Standards Act. According to that, no food consumption material shall consist of tobacco products. Now what the pan masala manufacturers are doing is this: they are separating the tobacco component and they are separating this arecanut and other masala component so that the provisions of this law do not attract them. And recently, cable television network amendment rules are also changed. So what it did is this: previously any tobacco related products cannot be advertised. Now these amendments allowed a company, if manufactures any other product, it can use the same logo on pan masala to be used on the other product and the logo can be advertised. Now let's say Manik Chand is in the pan masala manufacturing. Manik Chand is also releasing the bottled water. So it can promote its bottled water with the same logo that exists on the Manik Chand pan masala. So these are the two things which weakened the implementation of this particular thing. The disease burden in India is actually increasing, and it is more on the rural side, especially in the northern India. So in this context, the Delhi government recently made a decision to ban all forms of the pan masalas, and we shall say it is a welcomable step towards the health of the people in this country. Now coming to euthanasia, now many of the students, they confuse between euthanasia and assisted suicide. They are not one and the same. Euthanasia means if a person is on a bed, then the person, he is not in a position to make a decision about his life. So in this case, in the Western countries, there is something called a living will. So according to this living will, before his death, when he is active, he makes how and what shall be the decision pattern with regard to the life when he is bedridden. So based on his will, the person who is authorized by that individual will make a decision on his behalf. That is called a living will. On the other hand, assisted suicide, here the person himself will make a decision for ending of his life due to our inability to bear the pain of living. So in this case, do we need to allow euthanasia in India? What is the situation of euthanasia in India? It is two types: passive euthanasia and active euthanasia. Passive euthanasia means the life support systems, these will be removed. No active intervention in the form of lethal injection of lethal drug is not undertaken. But in the case of active euthanasia, the lethal drug will be injected into the body of the person to end his life. So in Aruna Shanbhag case, Aruna, she was a victim of a rape at General Hospital in Mumbai, and she was bedridden for almost 20 plus years. I don't know exactly the years. Now, in the Aruna Shanbhag case, Supreme Court, what it has said is this: the passive euthanasia can be allowed in India, and any case of the passive euthanasia need to be permitted by the High Court. So this is what is the Supreme Court judgment in this case. But under no circumstances active euthanasia can be allowed for. So in India, do we need to allow for assisted suicide? Then what are the general arguments in favor and against? The right to life includes right to death too. Then the right to life includes right to dignified life. The dignified life also means dignified death. Then from this argument, euthanasia has to exist under Article 21 of the Constitution. And the second thing is, a person is not supposed to suffer from agony of the pain. So necessary to ensure that no one dies with a painful agony. And it's my personal autonomy to determine either I have to live or to die. So from the autonomy questions we come over here. And this is a civil right. Now coming to the other side. Now how it can be implemented is a major question. Now any person who is depressed, so automatically an argument comes up that he can end his life. And the second thing is, in the hospice care, etc., instead of having this, so the easiest way to resort to is this particular euthanasia or assisted killing. And finally, so it becomes a cheaper alternative for the costly drugs for the cancer patients. Along with this, what about the doctors? Are we not giving too much of discretion about our life to the doctors? So these are the various issues that comes up with regard to euthanasia. Now coming to the India-China relations, recently India signed Logistics Information Sharing Memorandum of Agreement with United States of America during the Defense Secretary Ashton Carter visit to India. In this case, many of the strategists see it as a containment of China. But however, China has reacted with a restraint for this agreement. Though agreement is not reached, in principle certain understanding has reached between India and United States of America, and two more basic foundational agreements, if they are also signed, then India moves close to United States. So in this case, India don't want to have its closeness to United States of America reflected on its India-China relations. So in this context, the dialogue is getting broadened. This is called accelerated security dialogue. Now it is going to happen at three levels. One is defense ministerial level, national security advisor level, external affairs ministers level. So in part of this, the defense minister, Mr. Manohar Parrikar, is visiting China now. Coming to the Vijay Mallya case. So a willful default. What are the systemic weaknesses over here? Now let me explain you this. Chagla case was very famous in 1950s. Mr. Firoz Gandhi, the son-in-law of Prime Minister Nehru, has brought this case in the parliament. As per this case, the finance minister and his influence has led to investment of LIC in Mundra companies, which are not very famous companies. So in this case, LIC is a corporation established by the parliament. Then Firoz Gandhi has rightly questioned that what is the control the parliament has on these corporations if executive misuses them to his own advantage. So that question exists even today with regard to the misuse of the public sector undertaking banks in India. So if you take Vijay Mallya's case, the lending to him and the Sikh Kingfisher Airlines is due to the political involvement is one thing, and the second is the discretion that existed in the higher level officials managing the PSU banks is the second thing. So here, the citizens' money is being given to the banks as a bailout. So ultimate burden is coming on to you and me. So there has to be a greater transparency in the decision making of the bank. Now let's come back to the Krishna Godavari Basin issue. Now let's talk about how the political maneuvering has happened. There is a corporation created in Gujarat that is called GSPC, the Gujarat State Petroleum Corporation. It was into exploration business. Now when Modi was the chief minister of Gujarat, he declared that it has found the oil and natural gas deposits worth of 2.2 lakh crore rupees, which has surprised everyone. And in this case, CAG now has pointed out that this corporation has led to the loss of 19,700 crore rupees to the exchequer. So let us examine the story over here. Now the GSPC has no capacities or understanding of the technicality of exploration. So it has took the help of Geo Global, a consultation firm, to bring in a developmental plan. And after that, it also has took the help of the tough drilling to rig the plants over there. So in this process, total money which it has took as a loan from the PSU banks is around 19,700 crores. So without expertise, with supporters or else advisors who are not technically sound, how can a public sector company go to such an extent is the first question. And the second is, this money loan has come from the PSU banks. So what are the norms which are guiding the lending of these particular public sector undertakings by the PSU banks? So without any proper record management of the findings, without any technical validity, how come such a big system or such a big, fraud is being built on is the question here. And the next is India-Iran relationships. India is a reliable partner according to the Rouhani, the president of Iran. So in this context, let us understand, Iran was always a reliable friend for India in Persian Gulf. But recently, India started moving close to Saudi Arabia, and how it can reflect on Iran is a big question. So Iran is also a gateway for us to Afghanistan bypassing the Pakistan, that is the Chabahar port. And along with this, after the Iran nuclear deal, the oil and natural gas, it has become a major destination. So in this case, Mr. Rouhani ensured India that Iran will be a reliable partner for the energy needs of India. And the second thing is, Iran is also a part of our extended neighborhood. So in this context, Iran has close borders with the Afghanistan and Pakistan. So they also have to play an important role in the regional dialogue. So in this case, you try to study about Iran-Pakistan-India pipeline. What are the challenges? And China has taken a deep roots into the Iran. So China is building a huge infrastructure projects in Iran. And the Chabahar port is also probably can be given away to China if India do not complete it in the time. Because there are certain apprehensions in this particular area. But however, the Sushma Swaraj's visit can be taken as a step forward in the relations. And coming to IMF warning to India. So during this budget, there was a huge debate that India has to stick to its fiscal consolidation path or not. IMF has advised India to stick to its fiscal consolidation path. Whatever the low inflation which is continuing in India as of now, due to low commodity prices, cannot be a long-term feature. And the second is, India's major growth is due to private consumption and investment. So India is expected to continue on these particular lines. And along with this, the World Economic Outlook, it has given a good projection for India's growth. So that is a positive development over here. Coming to the World Bank's green norms. Now, World Bank is not one single institution, it has multiple institutions. IBRD, IDA. So I will discuss in detail about these institutions. Now, International Developmental Association, it provides for the concessional loans for the developmental projects in developing countries, where the per capita income on the PPP terms, it is less than $1,260. Now India has crossed this. It means that India is its loans from concessional loans from World Bank are bound to decrease. So in this context, Finance Minister has clearly said that if India has to achieve its sustainable developmental goals of 2030, then it need a continuous financial support from World Bank to the tune of $100 billion. And the next is, World Bank is also bringing in environmental and social framework. So Finance Minister, what he was talking about is this: there has to be a clear developmental stand. So the emphasis on the environment shall not affect the development. And finally, he also spoke about the reform of the World Bank and increasing the share of the emerging and transitional economies in the World Bank and its institutions. Now coming to the media, you know that the media as an institution, it suffers from credibility crisis now and also financial crisis. So in this case, there is a new book released by Julia Cage that is Saving the Media. So what she said is, we need to have a new organizational and financing structure, because the media is an important institution serving the public good, as like the schools, colleges and universities. So it also needs a sound protection. So that's why how the institution of media helping to create informed citizenry is making it a reliable partner in the knowledge economy. So to that extent, the organizational structure has to be revamped and the state assistance need to be provided. And coming to the Pakistan's China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So where it starts in Kashgar in Xinjiang province in China, and it goes up to the Gwadar port in Pakistan. What are the advantages to Pakistan? A huge infrastructure is being nurtured, and all the finance is $46 billion of investment is coming into Pakistan from China. And the third thing is, across this a series of power projects, information highways are also being created, which will nurture the trade across the route. So, what are the advantages to China? Now, if you see this picture, as of now, a good which has to go from the Xinjiang province to the Gulf, it takes around 12,900 kilometers of distance. Now, this is reduced to 2,000 kilometers. That is first advantage, greater connectivity. Now, there is an uprising in the Xinjiang province from Uyghur Muslims. So now, the wealth which is going to be created through this project will bring in greater connectivity and also will bring down that particular resistance. And third is this. Now, China, it wants to have a land access to the Indian Ocean. So this China-Pakistan Economic Corridor provides for the necessary land access to Indian Ocean. Then what are the challenges? This has to go through the sensitive tribal areas in the Balochistan province. So already there is an unrest about in the Balochistan province that many of the power projects are taken away from them and shifted to Punjab province. And it spreads across the Pakistan. It means that various provinces have to work in coordination with each other, which is always a weak point for Pakistan. And the second is, with regard to POK, India is opposing for the construction of this corridor. So these are the challenges which have been coming up. Now let's revise. Krishna Godavari scam. What it has been said is, so most of the claims made of 2.2 lakh crores of revenues, that is proven to be false. And 19,700 crore rupees which are spent by Gujarat Petroleum Corporation are not according to the established rules and practices. Media. So you need to have a sustainable public interest information ecology to protect the media. The ownership has to be made in those directions. Smoking. Non-smoke consumption of tobacco is high among the Indian women, and it is the reason for the oral cancer. So in this context, the tobacco is the first carcinogen and followed by the areca nut. Vijay Mallya case. Yes, it shows the failure of transparency and lack of autonomy for the banks and excessive political interference in the banking functioning. And Defense Minister visit to China. It is part of the accelerated security dialogue. And then euthanasia. The euthanasia and assisted suicide differences we understood. And euthanasia, the positive side argument and the negative side argument are discussed. And Defense Minister's visit to China. So already it's been discussed. So, and coming to fiscal consolidation, IMF gives a report called World Economic Outlook. So in this it has advised India to stick to its fiscal consolidation plan. And next, privacy. So with regard to the 21st century, the giants which have the control over the open data of the citizens, they are becoming more and more powerful. That is Apple, Facebook. And next is World Bank and green norms. So what has been said is the economic and social framework which has been brought by the World Bank shall not compromise the developmental prospects of the countries such as India. So these are the important news for the day. Thank you.